Hi everyone, Janie here, and as I promised, I have another easy card fold for you. So today's the day, and I am going to show you how to make a double easel card fold, and it is so easy for beginners that don't have a lot of tools, and it's also great for advanced crafters. So let's head on over to my craft table so I can show you. These are just two examples of a double easel card, and I'll start with this first one right here. That's the side view. And so this first part here is an easel, and back there is an easel. And then it folds up to your regular A2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This card can also be made in the landscape direction, and I'll show that to you. But it is really easy to do and just looks gorgeous. And this is actually the first card that I'm going to be demonstrating how to make, because this is the one for beginners who may not have a lot of crafting tools and may not have a scoreboard or anything or cutting dies. So this will be the first one. And then the next one that I'll show you will be a shaped easel card, or shaped double easel card. So there you go. This one happens to be a heart. And again, that part was an easel, and that part was an easel. And then it folds up to this beautiful card, and it opens up the same way. So there you go. All right, are you ready for the easiest directions ever? Okay, we're starting off with a piece of cardstock that is 8 1/2 by 11, so regular size. And we are going to cut it in half the long way right here. So half of 8 1/2 is 4 1/4. So we'll get it right here to 4 1/4. And we cut it in half. All right, so that gives us two pieces of cardstock that are now 4 1/4 by 11. Okay, so we're going to set one aside, and now we're going to cut this in half. We're going to cut it in half this direction. So half of 11 is what? Come on, you guys, you know what half of 11 is. It is 5 1/2. Okay, so we're going to cut this at 5 1/2. Gives us two pieces that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, a regular A2 size card. Now we're going to take one of the pieces that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and we're going to cut it in half this direction. So half of 4 1/4 is 2 1/8. So we're going to cut it right at 2 1/8. So now you have two pieces that are 2 1/8 by 5 1/2. Set one of those aside, and now we're going to cut this in half. So it is, and let me double check on this, it should be, yep, 5 1/2, and half of 5 1/2 is 2 3/4, if I am not mistaken. So we're going to go to 2 3/4, and we're going to cut that in half. So you have two pieces, two pieces that are 2 1/8 by 2 3/4. Okay, I'm going to set these aside, and I'll be right back. Now we're going to start scoring. So we're going to take that piece that is 4 1/4 by 11, and we are going to score that right in half. So half of 11 is 5 1/2. So we're going to score that right there. And then half of 5 1/2 is 2 3/4. So we are going to score it at 2 3/4. Now, If you don't have a scoreboard, no problem. Just take it and fold it in half. Make sure that your ends are all lined up and fold it in half. Then you're going to take one of those halves. Whoops! We're going to take one of those and we're going to fold that in half. So if you don't have a scoreboard, just fold it in half, fold it in half. And now we have the beginnings of our easel, and our other piece that is also 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 is going to fit perfectly on here, creating the first part of our double easel card. Now we're going to take the piece that is 5 1/2 by 2 1/8, and we are going to score that in half at, let me find my little thing here. We're going to score that in half at 2 3/4, because 2 3/4 is half of 5 1/2. And next, we're going to score that part in half again, and half of 2 3/4 is 1 3/8. So we have 1 right here, then there's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. And we're going to score it right there. But again, if you don't have a scoreboard, you are just going to fold it in half, and then you are going to fold one of the sides in half again. So you just fold it right into that halfway mark. So it makes it really easy with all of these. Fold it in half and then fold that in half. And then we had this cute little square left over, and that is going to fit right on the front of that. So we have now scored all of our pieces. Okay, I brought in my craft mat to have a little bit more contrast, between the colors so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing better. And I brought in my sample so that you can see what it looks like decorated. But I'm not going to decorate this for you. I'm just going to show you how to put it together. So, first thing I'm going to do is we're going to put some glue on here. Yep, as soon as I get that glue off of there. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here. You can use double-sided tape if you want, or whatever glue you want. I always use my Beacons 3-in-1 because I love that it lets me move it around a little bit, but that it's very tacky. Okay, so you take your big piece here that was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. You put your adhesive on this little front panel and you attach. Lay it down to make sure that everything is lined up, because you want all the edges to be lined up evenly. And once you do that, there's that part of the card. Okay, now we're going to take this one. We're going to do the same thing. So this is the one that is 2 1/8 by 2 3/4. We're going to take this little one. We're going to put some glue right here on that front panel, just like we just did to the big one, only now we're making a little easel card. And just like that, we are also going to put that piece on the front, make sure that everything lines up. And see, we have that piece that sits right here in the front. We have this piece that goes in the back. And the next thing we're going to do is you're going to be using a double-sided foam tape, which is what I've got right here. But if you don't have double-sided foam tape, there is another way for you to raise this up, to pop it up on there. And that's by taking several pieces of cardstock and gluing them together. And gluing them on the bottom of this so that it raises it up instead of using the foam tape. Because not everybody has foam tape, but you might have a bunch of scraps that you want to use. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the foam tape. So I am going to turn this over, make sure I have the back. And so on the back of this, I'm going to cut me a couple of pieces here. It doesn't matter whether you put them this direction or that direction. I just happened to cut that piece a little small, so I decided that we're going to put them on this way. So we have foam tape on there. Peel the backing off. And then you are going to find, we're going to open this up, you're going to find the center down here because you want to center this. And you can put it back a little ways, just like this is, because I have, you know, the border and the other layers here. So you may have it back a little ways. Figure out where the center is. And this is hard for me to do when I'm having it not facing me. And that'll be the part that holds that open. And now we need something right here to pop this up. And you can use a button, a flower. Right here, I die cut a heart. You can use anything. You can pop up a sentiment. You can use gems to pop this up. Tell you what, let me go grab a button. I'll show you how to do it with a button. I am back with a nice little button. And I'm just going to add some glue here. And I'll pop it on. Let's say I'll pop it on right there. Okay, and that is going to be what holds that. So make sure that you have everything creased really good so that it lays correctly. And it doesn't like my button so much. So I might have needed something a little higher, and I could have popped the button up because it is kind of a flat button. So probably not my best choice. And there you go. So totally undecorated. I leave that for you. Now I'm going to show you how to make it the other direction. Now I'm going to show you how to cut your cardstock so that your card will go landscape direction instead of portrait direction. So last time we cut it this direction, but now we're going to cut it in half this direction. So half of 11 is 5.5. So let me get this in here. Make sure everything is lined up good. Find 5.5 on here. Okay, we're going to cut that in half. And now you have two pieces that are 5.5 by 8.5. And we're going to set one of those aside. Then we're going to cut this in half. So we're going to put it in the 8.5-inch direction, and half of 8.5 is 4 1/4. So we are going to cut that at 4 1/4. Get that all lined up good. And so you have those two pieces, and one of them will go with the front of the card once it's folded. So we're going to put those two pieces aside. Now we're going to take the other half that is 4 1/4 by 5.5, and we are going to cut that in half again. So we're going to stick it in with the 5.5 inches going in. So half of that is 2 3/4. So we've got that 2 3/4 inches, and cut that in half. This one half we're going to be scoring and doing the folding to make the easel. And now we need to cut this in half so that we have the front of that. So this one, which is at, and I'm going to double check on my measurements here, at 4 1/4. So it needs to be cut at 2 1/8. So we get it to 2 1/8. Make sure that's all lined up. And there we go. And then you have an extra piece that you can just set aside. Now we're going to score this in half. So we have our 8.5 inches, and half of 8.5 is 4 1/4. So we'll score it at 4 1/4. And half of 4 1/4 is 2 1/8. And so we're going to score it at 2 1/8. And again, just like before, can fold it in half and then fold one of the other sides in half. That way you don't have to measure or use a scoreboard. Now, let me grab my other piece here. We are going to take this small piece, not the smallest one, but this one, and that one happens to be 4 1/4. And half of 4 1/4 is 2 1/8. So we're going to score it at 2 1/8. Carefully. So 2 1/8. And because 2 1/8, the half of that would be 1 1/16, and I don't have 16 on here, we're going to use that wonderful tip of just folding it in half. So let me see here. Fold that in half, and then we're just going to bring in the other side right up to that line and fold that in half. And that is going to give us our easel. I don't need to go through the process of putting it all together again for you, so just really quickly, again, you put your adhesive here, you take your card and you line it up on there, close it up to make sure that everything lines up, and you will have the back part of your easel. You do the same thing with the front one. You put your adhesive on there, you line up the matching little card there so that everything lines up evenly, and you will have your front easel. And then of course you'll put it together just like we did the other one. To make the shaped double easel card, I started off with a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock. So I'm going to be able to show you how to make a square double easel and a shaped double easel. Just like before, it's all about cutting things in half. And when you are dealing with a square, it's even easier. So half of 12 is 6. So I'm going to cut this at 6 inches. All right, then I'm going to take one of those pieces, because obviously we have two that are 6 inches by 12 inches. I'm going to take one of those, going to cut it in half again. So again, 6 inches. And I have two 6 by 6 squares. I'm going to set one of those aside because that one is going to go with the main easel part. And now I have a 6 by 6. We're going to cut that in half. Half of 6 is 3. So we get that lined up. Cut it in half. And now we have two pieces that are 3 by 6. One of these is going to be the smaller easel. We're going to set that aside. And this is going to be for the front of that. We're going to cut it in half, so at 3 inches. Boom, two pieces. One of them you're going to use. One of them maybe you'll use for something else. All right, scoring or folding, either way, this is going to be very easy. So this is 12 inches. Half of 12 is 6. Score it right down the middle. Half of 6 is 3. Score it right there at 3. Bada boom, bada bing, you are done with this one. You're just going to fold it on those two score lines, or if you were folding it in half, you already have it folded, and that takes care of the main one. Now we're going to come down to the little one, and it is 6 inches. We're going to score that at 3 inches, and half of 3 is 1.5 inches, so we score that at 1.5 inches. So just like before, fold it in half, and fold it in half again on that side, and there is the next part of the easel. Now obviously you're going to decorate these first before you put them together. You'll do all your decorating on here. But just like before, you put the adhesive here, then you put your other piece over the top. Make sure that all your edges match up so that you have a perfectly square card that will pop up like an easel. And again, the other easel is going to go right here. But of course, you know, like I said, I'm not showing you how to decorate. I did show you the cards, you know, but you're going to layer on your papers, you're going to layer on your images or your die cuts or whatever it is you're going to put on here to make this a beautiful card, because I am just showing you the fold. And, you know, maybe I'm going to stop right now and explain on all of these cards. You know, if you want to put another layer on here, then you cut your other layer of paper. You can make it 1/8 of an inch smaller than this, 1/4 of an inch smaller. You know, put on your layers, put on your pretty stuff, just like I did on my cards. And I'll show you again in a minute. But again, it's the same thing with your smaller little easel that's going to go on there. You put your adhesive here, you put this on there, you line it up to make sure that everything is in the right spot. And there's your easel that is going to go on here to hold that up. Okay? But I'm not going to put it together because I'm going to use this exact same stuff, and I am going to show you how to do a shaped card. So I'll be right back. Normally when you do a shaped card, you're not already going to have the score line here. I will let you know that you don't score it. You just score the halfway point because your shape is going to land in a different spot. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your die and you're going to take your cardstock. You're going to put your die cut inside down on your card. Okay, do you see the light shining through up here at the top? Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to have your die go out just a little bit beyond the fold. Okay, so this is the fold, and you're going to have it go out just a little bit beyond that. And to hold everything in place, I use washi tape. So I'm going to take a piece of washi tape and just kind of stick a piece on each side to help hold this in place. And I am going to run this through. Actually, 6x6 is a little bit too big for a cuddle bug, but it looks alright, it still works. Okay, so I'm going to put it through, and I usually kind of take it through and then bring it back through again, just because it's going through those 2 layers. And when you're done, you will have, just let me get this off from here very carefully, because I'm going to reuse this washi tape. And see, it doesn't cut right there because you let your die go out a little bit further, so it didn't cut. And that way you actually have a card. But you're going to want a heart without these little flat marks. Like your other square that you had, and you take your die and you just... Okay. It's going to be going over the front of your... Now we're going to do the exact same thing with the little piece. So you get to watch how to do this all over again. So I have my heart die. Keep in mind, you can do this with a heart, with a circle, with whatever shape you want to do it with, even a butterfly. Ooh, a butterfly would be pretty. Okay, so again, see the light shining through right up here? Because you have your die going a little bit past. Okay, and again, I'm going to put it on here with some washi tape, making sure I have my spaces up there. Okay. Run that through and run it back. Gently remove my washi tape. And again, there's your little heart. And we're going to do the same thing with your other little piece of cardstock and the same little heart die. Put that through. And see, there's your perfect heart to go over the outside. So that is how you make a shaped card. And I'll be right back and I'll show you about scoring it. Okay, if you're going to be doing a shaped card, this score mark will not be here because you would have not scored that part of it ahead of time. So just ignore that. Place your card down, and I can see that the halfway point here is 4.5. With, the shape that you use, the halfway point may be something else, but you want to find out what your halfway point is and then divide that in half. And so half of 4.5 is 2 1/4, which is right there. Make sure this doesn't move while I do that. 2 1/4. And we're going to fold on that score line. And that right there won't matter. Like I said, you won't even have that line, but even with me having it, it's not going to matter because I'm going to be attaching that heart. So you will put your adhesive on this front part right here, just like before. You'll put your heart over the top of that, lay it out to make sure that your heart is on there straight, and then you will have your easel. Just like that. And you're going to do the exact same thing with this one. And make sure that you have this, if you do have a scored one, which you shouldn't, but make sure it's on the same side as you're going to be scoring the other one so you don't have a weird bend in the back. Okay, and on this one it's 2 1/4, so I need to do 1 1/8. Fold it in half and put my adhesive right there, and oh, there's my little heart, and put the little heart right over it, and you'll create your easel. Of course, I'm trying to hold this and it's not straight, but you'll create your easel. And then just like on my other cards and the other ones we've been doing, you're going to take, if you're doing a heart, for example, you're going to take the point of the heart and put it down near the point of the larger heart. And yep, I'll show you with the other card because this just looks ridiculous trying to show it to you not put together. So here it is. So as you can see, I used foam tape to pop up the front heart. And that is the easel. And that's the easel. And there's your double easel shaped card. So, pretty easy. It's the same as putting the other ones together. It's just a matter of remembering to, let your die go slightly over the edge of the fold so that your card will all be in one piece. I hope I didn't go too quickly, and I hope that it was easy to follow. I just didn't want to drag out the video by putting together each card as I went along because the process for each one of them is the same. So there you go. This is what they look like from the side, from the front, and then of course once they're closed up they fit nicely in an envelope. If you did miss something and I went too fast, or if you have a question, please feel free to ask me and I will gladly help. Thank you all for watching today, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it was easy to follow, and I hope you love it as much as I do, because I have just fallen in love with this card fold, and I hope you have fun creating with it. Happy crafting, everyone. Bye-bye.